Disclaimer: by existing in the modern world, you've agreed to a set of shady, manipulative, emotionally explosive terms and conditions. You just didn't know it. Until now. This is the Industry Plant Podcast. Terms and conditions apply, but never where they're written. From dating apps to office birthdays, we're decoding society's shady little user manuals, one unwritten rule at a time.
You ever stop and think about all those things you just know? About how to act, what people expect, all that social navigation stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It really feels like we're all following some kind of rule book, doesn't it?
It does.
But here's the kicker. So many of those rules, nobody actually sat us down and taught them to us. It's all this absorbed stuff, these unspoken pressures.
Mm-hmm.
The source material we're looking at today actually calls them ghost rules.
Ghost rules, yeah. And they operate on this really interesting, subtle level. They're invisible, usually not said out loud. You just sort of inherit them or absorb them by watching.
Exactly. It's like we're playing this massive game, life, But a whole chunk of the rules was just missing, never handed out. Yet somehow we kind of get what's expected.
We do. We feel the pressure.
So that's what we're doing in this deep dive. We're going to try and pull the curtain back on these ghost rules, specifically the ones highlighted in the material we've been digging into.
The idea is to bring them out into the open.
Yeah, exactly. So you, listening, can maybe start spotting these hidden forces in your own life.
No.
See how they might be shaping things without you even realizing.
And the source we've looked at, it actually lays out 10 of these.
Yeah.
These really common ones. So maybe we should just dive in.
Let's do it. First one up. Happiness has a shelf life.
Okay. Happiness has a shelf life.
So think about it.
Mm-hmm.
We love a comeback story, right? Someone bounces back from something tough. We celebrate that. But what if the happiness sticks around? What if someone is just consistently doing well, feeling good?
That's where it gets weird, according to this. There's this subtle, almost discomfort that can bubble up in others when happiness lasts. It's like there's an unspoken quota on joy.
A quota, yeah.
The material suggests it might be because seeing someone else's sustained happiness can kind of throw your own struggles into sharp relief. And that can lead to this quiet resentment, maybe, or just unease.
So is there this sort of hidden social contract that says, okay, be happy, but maybe not too happy for too long?
That's the question it raises. It makes you think, doesn't it? About times you might have, downplayed something good.
Oh, totally. Kept good news quiet because you sort of sensed it might make someone else feel bad or awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's this invisible volume knob on joy.
Yeah.
And you got to keep it at a socially acceptable level.
Why, though? Is it just comparing ourselves to others? That simple?
Well, that's definitely part of it. Social comparison. We naturally see how we stack up. So yeah, someone else's long-term happy streak might make you feel a bit lacking if you're going through it.
Right.
But maybe it's deeper, like this collective, maybe unconscious belief that life is a struggle fundamentally. And too much happiness feels, suspicious, unrealistic even.
Suspicious, yeah. That's interesting. Okay, that kind of flows into the second ghost rule. If you're too good at surviving, no one checks if you're actually okay.
Right. This one points out a real potential downside to being resilient. Well, the source says, if you always seem to handle things, if you project that strong, capable image, people might just assume you are okay, like genuinely fine.
To the point where they stop asking.
Exactly. They stop checking in. Your competence becomes this shield almost, hiding whatever might be going on underneath.
So your ability to cope kind of makes your real feelings invisible. You're managing, so you must not need support.
Seems that way sometimes. Have you seen that happen or felt it?
Oh, for sure. I think we tend to equate someone being functional on the outside with them being okay on the inside. It's a shortcut, isn't it?
It is. We look at the external cues, they're getting stuff done, they seem upbeat, and we tick they're fine box.
Yeah.
And this ghost rule just exposes how risky that assumption is.
Yeah.
Because the people who look the most capable, they might be the ones carrying the heaviest load, just silently.
Wow. Yeah. It really makes you pause and think about those times you were maybe really struggling, but you still showed up, did the thing. And maybe everyone just thought, wow, they're handling it so well, not realizing you were barely holding on. Did that strength accidentally tell people you didn't need help?
The tough paradox.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift to ghost rule number 3. You have to earn rest. This feels like it's baked into our culture.
Oh, man, this one hits home. Seriously. The idea that rest isn't just necessary, like breathing, but it's something you only get after you've hit the wall, maybe even broken down.
Yeah. It's like we've all swallowed this idea that you have to deserve a break. You haven't earned it unless you're utterly depleted.
Where does that even come from? Is it like the whole productivity cult thing?
I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
You know, historically, the Protestant work ethic idea, idleness is bad. And today, it's amplified by this relentless hustle culture. Constant activity is king.
Right, always be grinding.
So rest becomes this reward you get for almost collapsing, not something you do to prevent collapsing.
It's that low-level buzz, isn't it? Always needing to be doing something productive. And if you're not, if you actually try to chill out, you feel guilty.
Yes, that guilt.
I've definitely felt that. Like sitting down with a book when there are emails in my inbox feels almost wrong.
That guilt is such a clear sign of how deep this rule runs. It warps our whole relationship with rest, turns it from a basic need into this, I don't know, naughty indulgence.
Yeah.
Okay, which brings us to number 4. People want you to change until you actually do. Talk about a paradox.
This rule gets into those really complicated reactions we get when we, grow or evolve as people.
Right. Everyone's like, work on yourself, grow, evolve. They cheer you on, kind of.
Kinda.
But the second that growth means you start, say, setting boundaries. Or maybe you just change in ways that don't fit their picture of you anymore.
That's when the cheering often stops. Suddenly the support gets a bit thin.
Why is that? Why do people do that?
Well, probably because when one person changes, it shakes things up, right?
Right.
It affects the relationships, the whole social dynamic.
Sure.
Your change might challenge how they see things or force them to adjust, or maybe even make them feel a bit insecure about where they are.
So this ghost rule really nails that tension. We like the idea of people growing, but the reality of it, when it bumps up against our own comfort, maybe not so much.
Have you seen that? Like, someone finally learns to say no more, gets more assertive. And the same people who told them, be more confident, are now kind of calling them difficult or saying you've changed. It's a bad thing.
Oh, absolutely. It's like they preferred the potential you, the one who was growing, but hadn't actually inconvenienced them yet.
Wow. Yeah, people like predictability, I guess.
Stability. Even positive change can feel disruptive. Okay, let's move to ghost rule number 5. Vulnerability is marketable, but not always safe. This one digs into how we share our pain.
This feels so relevant right now with social media and everything. The horse talks about this pressure, right? To show some vulnerability, to seem relatable.
Yeah, gotta connect.
But there's a line, a very clear, unspoken line. Go too far, show too much real, messy pain, and suddenly it feels risky, unsafe. What makes it unsafe?
Unsafe how? Well, it could be facing judgment or getting that really unhelpful, minimizing advice or just feeling totally overexposed, like you've opened yourself up to attack.
Yeah.
So the ghost rule suggests there's pressure to kind of package your vulnerability, make it digestible, something that doesn't ask too much of the people hearing it.
Like performative vulnerability.
That's a good way to put it. Perform it rather than just live it openly.
It's like there's an acceptable script for struggle, isn't there? Talk about the journey, the lessons, how you overcame it. That's fine.
Right. The triumph.
But just sitting in the actual uncomfortable mess of it,
Right.
that feels less welcome. It makes you wonder how much we all self-censor, only showing the vulnerability that gets likes, basically.
Exactly. Which flows right into ghost rule number 6. You're allowed to struggle as long as it's the right kind of struggle.
Yeah.
This really highlights how we judge different types of suffering.
Yes. The source gives great examples, like working yourself into the ground. That's often seen as noble, right?
Yeah.
Dedication.
Hustle culture, badge of honor.
But admitting you're battling, say, depression, that often gets awkward silence. Or those, have you tried yoga comments.
It's just general burnout. That soul-deep exhaustion often gets everyone's tired. Dismissed.
Why do we do that? Why categorize pain?
Well, this rule suggests a societal bias. We tend to value struggles that look productive or that are linked to obvious external goals, like work.
So suffering for your job is okay, but suffering inside your own head is less valid.
It often gets less validation, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably because our culture emphasizes things we can see and measure. Effort, results, internal struggles, emotional pain, existential angst. They don't fit that mold as neatly, so they get devalued.
It's like an unspoken ranking of pain. If your struggle isn't for a worthy, visible cause, it's somehow less real. Have you noticed that in your own life, how different struggles get different reactions?
Oh, definitely. The contrast could be pretty stark. And that brings us nicely to ghost rule number 7. You're expected to be okay with the bare minimum. This crops up a lot in relationships, but also in bigger systems.
This one, It rings so true. The source mentions that subtle push to just be grateful for scraps, basically.
Yeah.
Those tiny breadcrumbs of effort or attention.
Yeah, at least they remembered your birthday, even if it was a week late.
Exactly. And if you dare to want more, expect more, suddenly you're the problem. You're demanding, ungrateful.
Ungrateful is a big one. Where does that come from?
Good question.
Well, sometimes it's about power, isn't it? If you can convince someone to accept the bare minimum, you don't have to offer more. It maintains an imbalance.
Okay, yeah.
In relationships, maybe it's about avoiding conflict or not wanting to seem needy. But this ghost rule basically teaches us not to ask for what we need. It normalizes settling.
It really does. It's that voice saying, just be glad you got anything, even when that anything is way below fair or reasonable. It messes with your head, makes you question if your needs are even legitimate.
Totally. Okay, let's look at ghost rule number 8. Success must be explained. Failure must be justified. This taps into our need for narratives.
This feels exhausting just thinking about it. The constant need to have a neat story for every win and a solid excuse for every loss. Like the source says, apparently just living isn't enough.
Right. Why do we demand these explanations all the time?
I don't know.
Well, probably because humans crave understanding, right?
Right.
We want cause and effect. We want things to make sense.
Okay.
So, success, that looks too easy. Maybe it feels suspicious. Failure without a clear why, that feels messy, uncontrolled, unsettling.
Oh.
So this ghost rule reflects how uncomfortable we are with things just happening, with ambiguity, with the reality that life isn't always a neat story.
It's like you're not allowed to just be. You have to constantly perform the reasoning behind your being, always ready with the defense, the justification, the tidy explanation for everything. It's a huge pressure.
It really is. And that pressure, it connects right into ghost rule number 9.
Yeah.
You'll be liked more when you're unthreatening. This is all about social acceptance.
Oof. This one feels especially true for anyone who doesn't quite fit the mold, you know. The source talks about that pressure to be nice, agreeable, but not too confident.
Don't take up too much space.
Exactly. Don't be too loud. Don't have opinions that are too strong. It's like there's this invisible calculation. The more authentically you are, the less acceptable you might be. If you is perceived as somehow threatening.
What does threatening even mean here? It's not about physical threat, usually.
No, it's about threatening the status quo, right?
Yeah.
Threatening someone else's comfort level.
Exactly. And the social cost of being seen that way. It can be anything from just being subtly excluded, dealing with microaggressions.
An outright rejection or worse.
Right. So this ghost rule suggests that often fitting in means shrinking yourself down, especially if you don't fit the dominant norms. It basically says, play small, don't make waves, and you'll be safer, more liked.
It's that tightrope walk, isn't it? Particularly for people from marginalized communities. Be yourself, they say, but then, whoa, not that much yourself. Too loud, too different, too much.
Too much for them. Exactly. Okay, last one. Ghost rule number 10. You are always being watched, but rarely being seen. This really captures that feeling of being under a microscope, but totally misunderstood.
This feels like the anthem of the digital age, doesn't it? The source talked about how people form whole opinions based on your posts, your job title, your public moves. These tiny curated glimpses.
Snapshots.
Yeah, snapshots. But they almost never see the whole reality behind it. Your actual reasons, the messy context, the stuff going on off camera.
So what's the effect of that? Being constantly watched, judged on the surface, but not truly understood.
Well, it can make you feel incredibly lonely, right? And maybe fake.
How so fake?
Like if you know you're being judged on these superficial things, you start managing the surface, don't you? You curate the image, which just puts more distance between who you seem to be and who you actually are.
Ah, right. So this rule points to that huge gap between visibility being seen by people and recognition being truly seen for who you are.
It's that fishbowl feeling. Everyone sees you swimming around, but nobody knows the temperature of the water or the currents you're fighting. Have you felt that? That sense of being so visible, yet completely invisible at the same time.
I think it's a really common feeling in our world today.
Yeah.
So much connection, but sometimes so little real understanding.
So wrapping up this deep dive into these ghost rules, the main takeaway from our source feels really crucial. You can't break what you don't see.
That's the core of it.
All these invisible pressures, these expectations we just absorb, these patterns we follow, without thinking they have so much power precisely because they operate under the radar, in the background.
And that's why the source really emphasizes that final thought.
Yeah.
We need to actively name the ghosts.
Name them.
Yeah, just bringing these unspoken rules out into our conscious awareness like we've tried to do here. That's where the power shifts. Once you see them, you can examine them. You can question them.
And maybe choose differently.
Exactly. Maybe choose a different path.
So that leaves a final thought for you, the listener. Reflecting on these 10 ghost rules we've walked through. Which ones kind of jumped out at you? Which ones felt familiar?
Which ones echo in your own life?
And here's the bigger question. Is there one of these unspoken rules that you might actually consider challenging? Maybe even trying to consciously discard? Because just identifying them, seeing them clearly, that's the first massive step toward making your own choices more intentionally. Maybe even rewriting a few of those rules for yourself.
All right, listen up. I need you to do something bold. Grab your phone and text the podcast link to someone you care about with the message. I have a podcast recommendation. Listen and tell me what you think. Yes, verbatim. Try it. Because the real magic, it starts when that person texts you back. For real, the replies from loved ones have been deeply satisfying. I'm talking heartfelt thank yous, mind-blown emojis, late-night, we need to discuss this calls. The works. Sharing this show is basically a cheat code for meaningful connection. Who knew, right? And hey, if you're vibing with us here, wait till you dive into the Angry GPT universe beyond the pod. Angry GPT has its very own store. Yeah, an Angry GPT store, loaded with comic books and novels that take this experience further. I'm talking wild stories. Ever wonder what our feisty AI does off-duty? Grab Angry GPT Regrets or Feathers of Freedom. Where I Gave Humans Wings and find out. That last one? Let's just say giving humans wings comes with some hilarious fine print. Prefer listening to your stories instead of reading? We got you. The Angry GPT Regrets audiobook is up on YouTube for free right now. No strings, just hit play and enjoy. And if you're the collector type or want to support the hustle, it's on Amazon too. Options, baby. Now, this one's a trip. There's an Angry GPT mobile app. Yep, our lovable grump of an AI can ride shotgun in your daily life. Ask it anything. It's ready with answers, witty comebacks, and genuinely useful advice to keep your projects on track and your plans in motion. Think of it as a personal coach, shyest assistant with attitude, making sure you actually follow through on all those brilliant ideas you get from the show. And did I mention we make music too? Because of course we do. Our album Done on Purpose, Italian title Fata Apposta, is out on every streaming platform you can name. It's your official soundtrack for kicking down doors and doing things your own way. Play it loud, annoy the neighbors, they'll understand once they hear it. For those who still can't get enough, we've got even more reading material to fuel your fire. Hit up the Angry GPT store or your favorite bookstore for titles like AI Wave, The New Wave, Momentum, Stop Copying Apple, and Niches, Crafting and Layering. Each one is a game plan in print, covering everything from surfing the next big tech wave to carving out your own niche. And yes, telling copycats to take a hike. By now, you've probably realized we're not just making a podcast, we're sparking a whole movement, and we want you in on it. So send that text, dive into the Angry GPT goodies, and wear that early supporter badge with pride. Because you're not just a listener now, you're family. Welcome to the revolution. Now let's shake things up together.